Respect where respect is due. Kyler Murray's incentives. And oh, yeah, there's a football game on Sunday. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. So listen, Cardinals have a football game. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys were aware. Everydayers, you're smarter than that. You know that Week 18 is here. They are playing the San Francisco 49ers. And, you know, I've made my thoughts felt about who should play and who shouldn't. Kyler Murray should not be playing, even though he is. The majority of defensive players who aren't first and second year players shouldn't be playing. Looks like they will be. It's still TBD on a couple. James Conner's put on IR for the rest of the year, which makes sense because he tried to give it a go last week, was obviously hobbled and sat the remainder of the game. The can't-do list. We'll do our final installment, our 17th installment of that in the third segment. Kyler Murray's got some incentives in his contract that I'll discuss, which is like nightmare fuel for why I think that he shouldn't be playing. But we'll discuss that. And then, you know, a couple Pro Bowlers. It was pretty obvious. Budda Baker, Trey McBride were voted Pro Bowlers. Both had the best years of their career, maybe. Budda Baker was finally able to play just his position. Trey McBride emerged as the next one, maybe with, you know, Sam Laporta and a couple others. But, I mean, Trey McBride will most likely, for fantasy football purposes, be tight end one starting next year, I would think. And I'll talk about Budda in a second because I've talked so much about him this year already. Trey McBride's numbers are absolutely staggering. 104 receptions, 1,081 yards, and a touchdown. He had a rushing touchdown, a recovering touchdown early on in the year with a fumble that he recovered early in the season, and the receiving touchdown in Week 17, which was so obvious that it was going to happen when the game stopped mattering. It was kind of pissed me off. But the crazy part is, and I know that he was a rookie in 2022. He was with Josh Dobbs for a good chunk of 2023. But just look at this. So 104 receptions, almost 1,100 receiving yards this year. In 2022 and 2023 combined, he had 110 receptions, so just 6 more. And what is that? 17 more yards. He had 1,090. Oh, so 1,090. So he had 9 more yards in his first 2 years combined. That's crazy. That's leveling up in year 3. And for whatever everybody says about Drew Petzing, this is Drew Petzing's offense, and it features the tight end. It worked marvelously. That's weird with Marvin Harris. I didn't mean to do that. It worked. That would have been funny. It worked marvelously for Trey McBride, except for the touchdown number. But, I mean, the Cardinals had no problem getting in the end zone before their bye week. Zero problem. I think they were, 16 for 16 on their first 16 goal-to-go situations for touchdowns. They were the only team that did that. So while it's frustrating that a year like this didn't translate to more for who's set to be, you know, the next great one or, you know, has a trajectory to be that, number's pretty good. Budda Baker. I've talked ad nauseum about Budda Baker pretty much since he was drafted. Every day, as you'll know, I've always been a huge Budda Baker fan. That's not new. That's not something that is outside the norm. Most people appreciate what Budda Baker does, not only on the field, but off the field for this organization. How he carries himself, how he plays like an absolute torpedo with zero regard for his safety. He's very Bob Sanders-y, you know, very Ed Reed. He's not as good as Ed Reed was. I mean, Ed Reed is arguably a top 2 safety in the history of football. Budda Baker's a very, very, very good safety. I would say he's in the top tier now. And what you got to see this year, and I've said it a lot and I'll continue to say it, what you saw this year is the full potential of Budda Baker. And that's because they had DBs who could cover. That's because they had competent linebackers in the middle of the field. And that was with a pass rush that didn't exist. He was part of the pass rush, and he always has been, but a little bit more when they were really humming during the middle of the season. And the crazy part is, after getting the extension, he'll probably have a better year next year because they'll have even more playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. Like, the peak of Budda Baker is not over. The peak of Budda Baker is just beginning. I mean, seriously, look at Tyrann Mathieu. Look at the career arc. Okay. Mathieu came in with injury concerns. He got injured a couple times early on towards ACL when he was with the Cardinals. And then since, he's been hobbled here and there, but he's still playing at an incredibly high level in New Orleans. Like, he didn't just go home to collect a check. He's still making impact plays for a pretty good defense. And their offense was terrible this year when Derek Carr was out. So a little bit skewed there. But he played well in Houston on his one-year prove-it deal, and then he played really well in Kansas City, especially with having Chris Jones up front and having a very good offense on the other side naturally makes it easier. But Budda Baker has that career trajectory. So this isn't even the beginning of the downside of his career. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see that he got a contract extension for the next couple of years to stay with the Arizona Cardinals. I think it's fantastic. It's something that it just feels right. So when they get voted to the Pro Bowl, it's like, okay, yeah, those were like it always seems to be err on the side of not an Arizona Cardinal player. Usually James Conner, snub. That just shows how wildly impactful the running back position was in 2024. That's all that shows. James Conner wasn't snubbed. There were better running backs in the NFC than James Conner. That's just what it was. Plus, he's injured, so voting him in. I mean, like, it's fine. It's fine. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need the validation. All the validation he needs is inside that locker room, and he's got it times a million. And then, an alternate, Paris Johnson Jr. was voted an alternate left tackle. So for those that have kind of poo-pooed his performance this season, first year as an NFL left tackle, even though that was a traditional position while playing right tackle last year. He's going to be great. He is on the precipice of being great. And year 3 is really the year. Like we saw with, the year that the Cardinals drafted Isaiah Simmons, and it was Jedrick Wills and Tristan Wirfs and Mekhi Becton, guys like, Mekhi Becton was 6'7". I think he went to Louisville. And he was like, oh, that's the guy. But Kyler Murray can't see over him. But he's in. Okay, blah, blah. So, no. Tristan Wirfs had, like, Pro Football Focus rated one of the highest in the history of a Super Bowl. And also that was Tom Brady. So that was a little bit easier. Jedrick Wills never really amounted to anything, injuries where he played well when he was healthy. And they had a great offensive line in Cleveland when they threw a whole bunch of money at a bunch of free agents for a couple seasons. But, year 3 is really the year. And I think that depending on who the offensive coordinator is naturally, I'm assuming it'll be Drew Petzing next year. Depending on what they do with left guard, I feel like this is a year where they'll draft a left guard. Evan Brown's played pretty well. I mean, they've all regressed. The entire offensive line has regressed as the season went on. But I think that he's going to be great. And the Pro Bowl voters and committee think the same. So it's a nice barometer check, especially for Paris Johnson Jr. Trey McBride and Budda Baker were no doubt about it, and you love to see it. Kyler Murray has a major incentive in his contract. If you don't know what an incentive is, I'll explain it next. What is it? I'll explain it next. Why does it terrify me? Guess what? I'll explain it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks come in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats, like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, and whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payouts or, you want to cash out quickly, PrizePicks has you covered. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving that platform. Here's a special offer for you and Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks. Run your game. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you place your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings a new chapter, 365 blank pages waiting for you to fill. If there's a part of your life you want to rewrite or a plot twist you've been craving, why wait? Life isn't about fleeting resolutions. It's about taking control and becoming the author of your own story. Think of therapy as your personal editor, helping you craft the life you deserve. It's not just for crisis situations. Therapy can help you develop healthier coping strategies, improve your relationships, and empower you to be the best version of yourself. Whether you're facing a challenge or just looking for personal growth, therapy is a powerful tool to help you guide your journey. Whether it's learning how to set boundaries or tackling stress in new ways, therapy can help you develop skills for a better tomorrow. Even if you've never tried therapy, the benefits are clear. Finding someone to talk to and gaining fresh perspective can make all the difference in how you navigate life's ups and downs. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked. I don't even want to do this segment. I mean, I do. I chose it because I host this podcast. Me. Locked On Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. I see the likes are going up every time. I would love to just hit a run of 50 likes a podcast. It benefits, it spreads, the journey of Locked On throughout the algorithm. I'm happy that you're here. You know that. If you could do that for me, just takes a sec. Really appreciate it. Kyler Murray has a wildly scary incentive for me specifically. Maybe I'm just a worrier in his contract. Kyler Murray needs 50 yards rushing and a touchdown to collect a $750,000 bonus. Now, since day one this year, I've yearned. So it's kind of two things. One, I've yearned for the run game to be without Kyler Murray and be efficient and effective. And for a large portion of the season, it was. I also, especially when you saw opposing defenses really just understand the Cardinals offense. There were no layers to it. It was pretty vanilla. There were no gotcha moments like there were last year with Josh Dobbs. And then, there was the run where Kyler Murray pointed the end zone from the 45 in San Francisco. And, the obviously the Chargers won, but that was a broken play where he hit the edge and just beat a backer, to the house. There were those oh, that's right, Kyler Murray can still do that moments that were thrown in here and there, but it wasn't enough to be like, okay, he's running too much. And then flipping the script entirely the other way when the Cardinals were on their losing streak, he wasn't running at all. So Kyler Murray is not a pocket quarterback, not a pocket passing quarterback, a dictionary definition of. He's just not. He wasn't drafted to be. That's not when he's at its best. When you have a wrinkle, even 20%, it doesn't have to be, Lamar Jackson, 9 rushes for 90 yards a game to be effective. He doesn't have to be that. And I thought the balance for a good portion of the season was perfect. And then it completely fell off. With that said, this scares me because putting Kyler Murray in harm's way potentially to hit this incentive, I'm not saying that that's the reason why it would be happening for Sunday. Just let's make that clear. I'm not saying that's the reason why he's going to rush the ball 7 times for 57 yards and a touchdown. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not saying he's going to hit it. I'm just saying that it's players. This is incentive week. It's all over, social media now, where it's like, these are all the players who have incentives to hit. And, an incentive is an elevator in a contract where if you hit a certain mark, whether it be yards, passing touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, whatever, it's interceptions, if you make the Super Bowl, if you win the MVP, whatever it is, there's some in every contract, especially for, the high stars who make a lot of money. There's one for rushing and touchdowns for Kyler Murray. And 750K is a lot of cheese. So we'll see. I kind of wish it was passing yards. If I'm being honest, kind of wish it was passing yards. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Not, holding too much weight into it. But it's just, just something. Just something. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What's the can't do list? We'll discuss it next. Right here. I will be right back with my big dumb face. FanDuel. I love FanDuel. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. I mean, I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each team will score. It's wild. It's fun. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score, and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. It's the final installment of the can't do list. Because remember, there is a football game on Sunday. Can I say the Cardinals just can't get injured? Knock on wood. Can I just say that? Can they just down the ball every possession they have on offense and let San Francisco score a touchdown because they're sitting down with their legs crossed on defense? Can that be the game plan going into Sunday? Because that would be awesome. Let them score touchdowns on the kickoff return. Just let them score every possession because the Cardinals aren't trying. And the offense just kneels 3 times. Kyler Murray has negative 250 yards rushing because they're all kneel downs, and you call it a day. Sign me up, coach. Need an assistant coach. I got the goods. The real can-do list. The barometer for success and future pacing things, entities, things that we talked a lot about last year are really in play for Sunday. Like I talked with Eric Crocker from Locked On 49ers yesterday. If you didn't hear that, check that out. The end of the first segment is spectacular. Like Crocker played DB, had a cup of coffee in the NFL, and he played around, and was Locked On Draft for a long time. He was host of Locked On Draft. He knows DBs. And we talked a little bit about the young DB core for the Cardinals and how well they've done without any sort of real semblance of a pass rush. I want to see taylor-demerson rock. That's what I want to see. That's who I'll be watching Sunday more than anybody. Because with Budda Baker getting the extension, obviously, he's going to play FS for them for the next handful of years. Is Jalen Thompson a guy that they can move off of? I'm not sure if he is, especially with the wildly ridiculous exotic packages that Nick Rallis and Drew Petzing put out there. You could see all 3 of them on the field at one time. But Taylor-Demerson plus Budda Baker plus Garrett Williams plus a second-year Max Melton. And we'll see if Elijah Jones can get in the mix, the third-round pick out of Boston College. That's what I want to see. Because the Cardinals, starting in 2025, will have one of the most fun, young secondaries in football, led by a guy who is the dictionary definition of who you want to lead your secondary. On the field, off the field, demeanor, style of play, leadership, everything. So I want to see what those guys do on Sunday. And I know that it's going to be Josh Dobbs. Brock Purdy's not playing. I know that it's a game that doesn't matter for the standings. I don't care if they win or lose. They're going to pick within 3 or 4 picks from each other. It's a bad draft. They're going to get a top 10 player where they draft, regardless of win or loss. And for those that don't know, I should have mentioned this earlier. I did talk about this on the New Year's Eve show, that the Cardinals have their schedule already set. The 49ers have the fourth place schedule due to massive amounts of tiebreakers. So even if the Cardinals lose on Sunday, the Cardinals still have not a last place schedule. And the 49ers schedule next year is cake, like a large wedding cake. Like a large sheet cake, like a human size, like a Guinness Book of World Records size cake schedule. So it doesn't matter. Like, Cardinals pick 13th, they pick 16th, they pick 17th, whatever. There's going to be so many quarterbacks you'd think taken in the first round. They're like, no, not this year. Every year there's quarterbacks taken in the first round higher than they should be. So the Cardinals will be able to get a good player if they want to keep that pick. They definitely could be a trade back candidate next year. We'll see. A lot of time to talk about that. What they can't do is get burned by Josh Dobbs in the secondary. That's really it. That's really the only outlier here. They really can't. That's something to be like, oh, that's not how you want to end the season. If you want to end the season on a high note, it's not really about a win. Obviously, you want to win. Like, come on. But if you want to end the season on a high note on Sunday, you just eviscerate Josh Dobbs. Pick him off 3 times. Like, make people understand that this secondary is ready now. And I know the game doesn't matter. I know it's a backup quarterback. I know the majority of players on the 49ers are hurt or may not play. I don't care. Go put up a performance like they did against the Rams in week 2. Just go absolutely punish an opposing team with their backup quarterback. Just do it. That, like, especially for teach tape, especially for film, that's very, very important for the guys on defense. Very important. And then, offensively, what you can't do is, like, what I don't understand is if Kyler Murray plays a quarter, like, what are we doing here? Is he playing the whole game? Why would he play the whole game? What I'm saying the can't do thing on offense, and this is just specifically for week 18, is don't mess it up. Have the game plan in place. Have him play a quarter. Have him play a half. Then give it to Clayton too. Because injuries, and I'm not like, one of my things that I always say here is you never want anybody to get injured, even if it's your fiercest rival's best player. Like, if you do, you're a terrible person. It's just any injury in week 18 could have massive implications for next season. So having any sort of way to circumvent that, I would take advantage of. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Listen, it's been a hell of a season. Thanks for being here with me. This offseason is going to be maybe even better because we are looking at 2025 as the year the Cardinals either make it or break with the quarterback they have in place. And I'm here for it. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Have a great weekend. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday.